Hey, if your job or your company's success relies on its website and you're using the Drupal content management system, you're going to want to watch this. Hi, I'm Kevin Goldberg, CEO and founder of Imagistic IS2 Digital. We build and architect custom software solutions for businesses like yours to boost profitability, streamline operations, and to strengthen your brand online. So let me set the stage. Drupal is a top-tier content management system. And while WordPress dominates the overall CMS marketplace, Drupal is the backbone of nearly 15% of the top 10,000 websites worldwide. And on January 5th, 2025, Drupal version 7 reaches its end of life. What does it mean when software reaches its end of life? When software reaches its end of life, it doesn't mean that it's dead or that it'll stop working or really anything of the sort. But what it does mean is that the companies or individuals who are supporting the software are no longer going to be supporting the software. And therefore, fixes and more importantly, security patches will no longer be released. So why is this important? This is important because, as we know, software has bugs and vulnerabilities. And when software is being supported, those bugs and vulnerabilities are being addressed by the people supporting the software. However, when software reaches its end of life, that support goes away. So eventually, hackers will find those vulnerabilities. Now, that doesn't mean that on day one, when software reaches its end of life, it will immediately be hacked. But with each passing day, that vulnerability and risk increases. So staying on software that has reached its end of life is definitely not recommended. What does it mean when a website is hacked, and how bad can it be? Well, that's a great question. And the truth is, if your website is hacked, it can be really bad. There are 3 steps you want to take if you find that your website is hacked. The first is the immediate response, which is that you need to take your site offline. Your site could have malware on it. It could have inappropriate pictures. Your server could be spewing bots all over the internet. So you must take it offline. And the problem, of course, with that is that there's immediate brand damage. Somebody goes to visit your website, they find it offline. That's disconcerting. As well, if you're running an e-commerce site, that could be thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. So this is a bad situation, but again, you must take your site offline if you find that it's hacked. The second step is getting your site back online. The first thing you need to do here is identify how the hack took place and what was hacked. Those are 2 vectors that you need to attend to. First, you need to be able to plug the hole where the hack took place, whether it was a compromised password or some vulnerability in the software. And the second is you need to remediate the problems within the software to get your site back online. Now, ideally, you have a good set of backups that you can leverage and restore just prior to the hack taking place. This is the most ideal scenario and requires the least amount of time and effort. If you don't have backups in place, then you're looking at rebuilding the site, which actually happened to a client of ours once. We took their existing site, we quarantined it, and literally rebuilt it from scratch based on the existing site. Clearly, that was a very expensive proposition, but they had no backups in place. Now, when you do use a backup, you're obviously going to have a gap in data. Any content, purchases, and other types of information that are on the current live site are not going to be in the backup. So you have to create a process of capturing that data from the live site, making sure that you don't also capture any hacked information or also open up additional vulnerabilities. So this is a costly process, but much less costly than rebuilding a site from scratch. Finally, you have the post response, which is about brand and reputation management. You need to check in with vendors, clients, customers, investors. You need to look at payment processor relationships or social media channels or search engines and all these types of systems that have now seen that your site has been hacked and might have dinged you in some way based on this. As well, you also need to look at legal data compliance issues. So while the second phase can be costly and take some time, it's this third phase that takes the most time and is the most costly. What are the options for my website given Drupal 7's end of life? So there are 3 options, and actually a 4th just came out. The first option is you can stay on Drupal 7. Now, we've already identified that this has a lot of risks associated with it because the software has reached its end of life, and it's definitely not a path that we recommend. But of course, you can do that. The second option is to upgrade within the Drupal content management system. Currently, Drupal is on version 10 and version 11 is in beta. The benefit of staying within the Drupal framework so that your users don't have to learn a brand new content management system. Option 3 would be to migrate to a new content management system, for example, WordPress or Webflow. And we've seen a number of Drupal 7 sites go in this direction. And the fourth option, which I mentioned, is that Pantheon, a web hosting provider, has offered to support Drupal 7 websites for 2 more years. Now, you obviously have to move your hosting to their platform, and it's not a long-term solution, but it does give you a little bit more time to make a decision as to whether you're going to upgrade within the Drupal content management system or migrate to another content management system. What's the time and effort required to upgrade within a software application? There is no one answer, of course, but there are 3 assessments that you can make that will help you come up with a good estimate. The first assessment is a content assessment, where you're looking at content types and the number of items of each content type you have. You're also looking at your theme, the customizations that you built into the visual, the design, etc. The second assessment is any custom code that was implemented, connections to third-party APIs or plugins and things of that nature. And the third assessment is identifying any differences between the version of software that you're on and the version of the software that you're upgrading to. Regardless of how much effort it takes to do all these, it is much less expensive to upgrade within a software application than to migrate to a new software application. What are the potential costs and implications of migrating to a different software framework? Migrating to a different software framework will use the same 3 assessments we talked about when considering upgrading software. The first assessment is the content assessment, where you're going to look at your content types, blog, e-commerce products, things of that nature, and your theme. The second assessment is any custom code that you've developed, integrating with third parties or custom plugins and things of that nature. And the third assessment you're going to do is a gap analysis between your existing software and the new software you're migrating to. And this is where the complexity and cost may arise. There can be certain functionality that's part of the base framework of your existing software that the new application doesn't have, in which case you're going to need to find a module or plugin to support that, or write custom code to support that. And consequently, the migration process is much more expensive than upgrading within a software framework. So let me get to the point. If your website is running the Drupal 7 content management system, you need to make a plan as soon as possible to get off version 7. If you have a web developer that you're working with, reach out to them immediately. If you don't have a web developer, feel free to reach out to us. Your options are to upgrade from Drupal 7 to Drupal 10 or 11, or to migrate to another content management system such as WordPress or Webflow, or you do have the option of moving your hosting to Pantheon, buying you 2 more years before you have to make the decision to either upgrade or migrate. IS2 Digital helps business executives solve problems with software. If we can help improve or automate any of the behind-the-scenes processes that run your business, feel free to reach out and let's see if we can help. is2digital.com/tothepoint. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel if this has been helpful and you'd like to be alerted when new content is released.